Hello. Welcome back. Um, I've recorded this so many times. Yeah, I'm kind of sick of seeing myself in that. That's better. Anyway, welcome. Welcome, Dolly, and welcome, Celine, and hi, Mom, and hi to anyone else who's watching. So today I'm holding the mic like this because I was told that I needed to speak more into the mic, which actually, now that I think about it, I'm not going to be. It's kind of uncomfortable to hold it like this the whole time. So I'll probably stop. But anyway, I'm doing it now. And I'm speaking kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm whispering, but that's because it's night time. And I should be sleeping, but I'm awake. Yeah, but here we are. So, here is the book I'm going to be reading from. It's written by one of my favorite authors, Osamu Dazai. If you know me, you probably heard about him already, and I've probably tried to convince you to read one of his books. He was a notoriously sad and hypocritical person. I guess everyone is. But I just find such a beauty in his work, and I think there's just this light that shines through in his writing. And I feel like I'm going to read a short story. This short story, it's like that light. It's shining through the clouds. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna read it. And I've got some tea. I hope you have some tea. You should get tea. Please go get some tea and get in bed and get cozy. Oh, my music's kind of loud. Okay, I'm gonna drink. It's actually ginger tea, and it's quite pungent. But yeah, maybe it'll knock me out. That would be nice. Okay, I'm sorry if you could hear that. Oh yeah, so I'm not gonna hold the mic up. I hope you can still hear well. I wanted to read this out in the park on a sunny day, but anyway, it's night time, so please just close your eyes and imagine you're sitting on a veranda and it's a summer day, and yeah, there's a little stream. Anyway, yeah, just close your eyes and imagine what you feel when I'm reading. Okay, I'm gonna start. A promise fulfilled. This is something that happened 4 years ago. I was spending the summer at Mishima in Izu, staying in a room on the second floor of an acquaintance's house, writing a story called Romanesque. One night, in the course of riding a bicycle through the streets of town drunk, I suffered an injury. The skin above my right ankle was split open. The wound wasn't deep, but because I'd been drinking, the bleeding was frightful, and I made a frantic dash to the doctor's. The town doctor was a corpulent man of 32 who resembled Saigo Takamori. He was very drunk. When he wobbled into the consultation room in a condition that clearly rivaled mine, it struck me as hilarious, and as he treated my wound, I began to giggle. The doctor soon joined in, and before long we were both laughing uncontrollably. We were good friends from that night on. The doctor preferred philosophy to literature, and since I too felt more at ease with that subject, our discussions were always lively. The doctor's view of the world was one that might best be described as a primitive sort of dualism. He saw in all worldly matters manifestations of the struggle between good and evil, and this allowed him to explain everything in admirably clear and concise terms. Even as I inwardly strove to maintain my monotheistic belief in the deity we call love, the doctor's expositions of his theory were like breaths of cool, fresh air, briefly dispelling the gloom in my heart. One of his illustrations, for example, that he himself, who called to his wife to bring beer directly, I visited them at night, was good, whereas his wife, who would smilingly suggest that tonight, instead of drinking beer, we play bridge, was a true representation of evil, struck me as flawless, and I had to concur. The doctor's wife, though small and plain, was fair of skin and had an air of elegant refinement. They had no children, but the wife's younger brother, a quiet, serious youth who attended a commercial school in Numazu, lived upstairs. 5 different newspapers were delivered to the doctor's house, and in order to read these, I would drop by for 30 minutes or an hour almost every day during my morning walk. I would come through the back gate and circle around to the veranda outside the drawing room, where I'd sip the cold barley tea the wife brought me and read, holding the newspaper down firmly with my free hand as it flapped noisily in the breeze. Not more than 10 or 12 feet from the veranda, an ample little stream flowed lazily through the edge of a green meadow, and along the narrow lane that bordered the stream, a boy who delivered milk would pass on his bicycle and invariably call out, "Good morning," to me, the stranger from out of town. At about the same hour, a young woman would sometimes come to the doctor's house for medicine. There was always something refreshingly clean and healthy about her, in her light summer dress and geta clogs, and I would often hear her and the doctor talking and laughing together in the consultation room. Occasionally, however, the doctor would accompany her to the door as she left, and call out after her in a scolding tone of voice, "It's only a question of persevering a little bit longer, young lady." The doctor's wife explained it all to me one day. The woman was married to a primary school teacher who developed a lung problem. I shouldn't be laughing. The doctor's wife explained it all to me one day. The woman was married to a primary school teacher who developed a lung problem some 3 years ago, and whose condition had recently begun to show marked improvement. The doctor had spared no effort in making it clear to the young wife, however, that certain things were strictly forbidden, reminding her that now was a crucial time in her husband's convalescence. She faithfully obeyed his commands, but there were nonetheless times when one look at her would be enough to move anyone to pity. It was then that the doctor would steel his heart and scold her, saying it was only a question of a little more perseverance, the implicit meaning of which was obvious to them both. One day, near the end of August, I witnessed something beautiful. I was sitting on the veranda that morning, reading the newspaper, when the doctor's wife, who sat nearby with her feet tucked up beside her, whispered, "Ah, she looks happy, doesn't she?" I glanced up and saw a radiant figure in a light summer dress, walking briskly along the narrow lane before us, her clogs scarcely seeming to touch the earth, her white parasol spinning round and round. "The ban was lifted this morning," the doctor's wife whispered again. 3 years, I thought, and a wave of emotion swept through me. As time goes by, the image of that young woman at that moment is something I've come to think of as ever more beautiful. And that, for all I know, may be just as the doctor's wife meant it to be. I made a few mistakes. I hope you liked that. Yeah.